So if we look in our book, that very first page is going to give us an idea. We're in our readers today, our small book. That very first page is going to give us an idea of kind of what we're looking at. So it said, where in the world did these tales come from? Now, I have not yet told you what tale we're going to be looking at, but where in the world did these tales come from? And what do we see? Haley, what do we see? General picture, what is it?
A map of the world.
We see a map of the world, and then it's labeling where our stories come from. So if we look at it, we can see in green, green is letting us know that it is Iran or Persia, and we're going to be reading the story Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp. Raise your hand if you have some familiarity with the story of Aladdin, whether it's reading a book of it, watching the real life movie of it that they've recently made, the Disney version of it. Like Aladdin came out close to around the time I was born. If that helps anyone. So it's been in my life my whole life, like as long as I can remember. Good. That's going to be the first story we read today. There is another story. If you look in yellow, that's going to be where our other story comes from. And it's going to be from England. And we're pretty familiar with England because what other story came from England? The Wind in the Willows. And that is going to be the story of
Alice in the Wonderland.
Read it again. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, the Open Road. So it's worded a little different. But where our two stories are going to be coming from as we get into our book. So remember, I told you these books are not just gold. They are diamonds. Before we engage in reading it today, I want you to close it up. And we're going to preview a little bit of vocabulary. Not necessarily words that are going to be uncommon to you, but words that are going to be important as we go through our story today. So I'll get that pulled up. So looking at our vocabulary up here, Aladdin and the Wonderful Lamp, Part 1. These are some words we're going to come across. Now, unlike when we do our Wind in the Willows, I feel like those words are a little bit less common. They might be words you might not run across as much. These, I want you to be able to read them and know what they mean as we go. So some of them are going to be a lot more common with you. The first one is Aladdin. Aladdin is the main character. And we just talked about that, right? We know who Aladdin is. We know most of us have a little bit of a familiarity with Aladdin and his story. Our next one is the word tailor. Have you ever heard that word tailor aside from it being someone's name?
Yeah.
A tailor is going to be a person who makes clothing or fixes someone's clothing. A tailor. It's going to be a job that someone has. Our next one is a nephew. Raise your hand if you are someone's nephew. I have some girls raising their hands. A nephew is a relative, but a nephew is a boy. The girl version of a nephew would be a niece. So my nephews are Peter, Max, Silas, and Barrett. And soon there's going to be another one in the next month or so. I get a new nephew. But my nieces, which would be a girl relative, would then be Gabby and Grayson. I only have two. So it's going to be a nephew is a relative. So you are the nieces and nephews to your parents' siblings. So your parents' moms or parents' brothers and sisters. Our next word is a merchant. What's our word?
Merchant.
A merchant is a person who sells goods in order to make money. So they're selling things, and their hope is by selling something, they are making money. That might be you're selling something you make. It might be selling something you grow. It might be selling something you find. But in the end, you hope to make money. A magician. We've all heard of magicians, right? So our definition, our example of a magician in our story is going to be a person who does tricks. They might be using powers that makes them seem like what the things they're doing should be impossible, right? So sometimes it might be powers. Sometimes it might be like just trickery. They're kind of tricking you into seeing something, and it feels like what they're doing should be impossible. And then our next one is treasure. What's our word?
Treasure.
Treasure is just something that's considered valuable, which then we come down and our next word is precious, and precious just means valuable. So your treasure might be very precious to you, and it's something that you find valuable. We can use both those words together. Again, most of these words you've probably heard before, right? Are there any that are like brand new to you, you've never heard before? Zena, which word is brand new you've never heard before?
The
Nope, read it.
merchant.
Good job. This one right here, a merchant, a person who sells good. That's a brand new word. Great, perfect. I would say that's probably one of our least common ones. Haley, is there any other words that are brand new to you?
Merchant and all.
The merchant. Good. And any others?
Kind of tailor. I feel like I put it before, but like
Maybe didn't know what it was. So that happens. Sometimes we hear words and we don't know what they are. Taylor, Taylor, maybe a little different spelling depending on who you are, is going to be a common name for a person as well too. But this is talking about a job. Lexi? Sound it out. Which word? We're going to read these words together so we're ready for them. So the first word is
Aladdin.
You're going to read these in your story today. Your next word is
Tailor.
Everybody read it. Our word is
Tailor.
The third word is
Nephew.
Our fourth word is
Merchant.
Our fifth word is
Magician.
magician. Our sixth word is
Treasure.
and our final word on that page is
Precious.
precious. Very good, my precious.